to Jewishnews TV. This week, making headlines. In Sydney, Hakoah Club President Phil Filler has called on members to pay their dues for the coming year. Filler said that even though the Jewish Social Club will have no headquarters after November, they should still pay to renew memberships. Hakoah sold its Bondi Beach premises in 2007. The club's lease runs out in November, and Filler is yet to announce the club's new home. Also making headlines, Federal MP Julia Irwin announced her retirement from politics last week. Irwin is best known to the Jewish community for accusations that Israel was ethnically cleansing the Palestinian population. She also claimed that Israel had turned Gaza into a walled ghetto or concentration camp. We now cross to our political reporter Naomi Levine in Melbourne for more on the story.
Thanks, Lexi. None of the Jewish political experts I spoke with this week expressed disappointment with Irwin's resignation. Monash University academic Dr. Philip Mendy said she just added harsh rhetoric and polarised people, while Deakin University academic Douglas Kersner said her views were more extreme than some of the Palestinian Authority politicians he'd spoken to recently in Ramallah. Back to you, Lexi.
Thanks, Naomi. Now to international news. On Tuesday, the United Nations Human Rights Council is scheduled to discuss the report submitted by South African Justice Richard Goldstone from his fact-finding mission on the Gaza conflict. At the UN this week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with others, urged world leaders to reject findings of the controversial report. It accuses the Israel Defense Forces of committing war crimes during Operation Cast Leave earlier this year. We now cross to Aaron Shapiro in Melbourne with the full story.
Thanks, Lexi. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be speaking before the United Nations in New York later today, Thursday, and part of his speech, we are told, will focus on the Goldstone report. As you said, Lexi, this report accuses the IDF of having committed war crimes and even crimes against humanity. Israel strenuously rejects these charges, which, even if not pursued, might lead to an erosion of Israel's international standing. Just last week, there was an editorial about the Goldstone report in the Dominion Post, which is Wellington's daily newspaper, with the headline, "Israel's War on Humanity." That's just one example of how dangerous this report is for Israel. So part of what Netanyahu is trying to do in New York is somehow get the other nations on board to discredit the allegations in the report, some of which Israel says are complete fabrications taken almost verbatim from Hamas propagandists. Netanyahu's argument to other nations is that the report's findings, if they were to be accepted, would handcuff all nations working to fight terrorist groups operating in urban areas, such as Al-Qaeda. It's a strong argument, and that's what we expect to be hearing and seeing more of from the Prime Minister and his spokesman later today. Israel's hoping their message will be received by the Western powers and that by the time the Goldstone report is discussed in the UN Human Rights Council on Tuesday, it will have lost much of its sting. Back to you, Lexi.
Thanks, Aaron. To entertainment news. Brothers Ross and Darren Bark are about to premiere their film Twin Enemies, which tells a story of cyberbullying. They hope it will serve an education purpose and help curb the spike in online bullying.
What we found is that this film talks directly with the students rather than talking down to them. There's a lot of authoritative programs that are out in schools. This connects with them. It doesn't talk to them theoretically about what's happening. And the key thing is, as part of a structured discussion, it becomes just such a powerful tool.
You realise that this isn't just an issue about 1 or 2 or 10 girls. This is an issue for your children, for other people's children as well. And that's the most serious part about it, that it is such a widespread issue. And that's what caused us to continue with the program and to make sure that we create this film as part of an education program.
And you can catch the film when it premieres in Sydney on September 30 at the Entertainment Quarter. In sports news, we now cross to journalist David Weiner for the Sports Roundup.
Thanks, Lexi. Well, south of the border, there's only one story that matters this weekend. Will Geelong reach AFL greatness with their second title in 3 seasons, or will St Kilda finally break their premiership drought? The last time St Kilda won the flag was with Jewish star Ian Cinnamon in their lineup, on Yom Kippur of all days, way back in 1966. Wait and see whose prayers are answered this weekend. In Sydney, Maccabi Futsal puts the final touches on their pre-season training with a tournament this weekend. This is ahead of their summer season in the New South Wales Super League, which is the second highest tier available in the state, with former Australian assistant coach Steve Knight, national captain Simon Keith, and former Central Coast Mariner Lawrence Broad joining a side full of Maccabea experience. They expect to make the playoffs. In other national news, Muay Thai fighter Dylan Resnikov has jetted off to Thailand to prepare for his biggest fight of the year in a main event fight night in Penrith in October. Our Maccabea beach volleyballers, Danny Scrabble and Arthur Bobro, have hit the international circuit in a tournament in Bulgaria. While in international news, Israel's gallant run in tennis's Davis Cup has ended at the hands of Spain, 4 rubbers to 1. But it's no disgrace, Spain are a powerhouse and the Czech Republic are really up against it in the final. They're the sports headlines. Have a great weekend. Back to you, Lexi.
Thanks, David. Now to schmooze. And US President Barack Obama took some time out to wish the Jewish community a Happy New Year last week. He took the opportunity to release a New Year's message calling for peace and love, and was sure to throw some Hebrew words into the mix. For all these stories and more, check out the Australian Jewish News, available every Thursday at your local newsagent. And log on to jewishnews.net.au for all the latest in news and views in the Jewish world. I'm Lexi Landsman, and this is Jewish News TV.